Welcome back to Prophecy Coming Alive with Chuck Suchman at Hope Worship Center in Marietta, Georgia. We left off speaking on the Temple Mount known as Mount Moriah. And we're going to pick up where we left off before. Muslims say that the Temple Mount in Jerusalem belongs to them. However, the first temple spoken of in the book of Chronicles, the scripture 2 Chronicles chapter 3 verses 1 through 2, the temple was constructed by Israel about 1700 years before Islam began. We're going to talk for a few minutes about David and the altar he builds at the site that will become known as the Temple Mount. This is found in 2 Samuel chapter 24, verses 18 through 25. On the day that Gad went to David, Gad being the prophet of Jerusalem, on the day that Gad went to David and said to him, "Go up and build an altar to the Lord on the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite." So David went up, as the Lord had commanded him, through Gad. When Araunah looked and saw the king and his officials coming toward him, he went out and he bowed down in respect to the king, with his face to the ground. He said to David, "Why has my lord the king come to his servant?" David replied, "To buy the threshing floor, so I can build an altar to the Lord, that the plague on the people may be stopped." Araunah said to David, "Let my lord the king take whatever he wishes and offer it up. Here are oxen for the burnt offering. Here are the threshing sledges and the ox yokes for the wood. Your Majesty," Araunah gives all this to the king. Araunah also said to him, "May the Lord your God accept you." But King David would not have anything such as giving him the land. King David, in respect to God, insisted on paying for the land. King David said in verse 24, "No, I insist on paying for it. I will not sacrifice to the Lord my God with burnt offerings that didn't cost me anything." So David bought the threshing floor and the oxen and paid for them. And David built an altar to the Lord there and sacrificed burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. Then the Lord answered his prayer in behalf of the land, and the plague on Israel was stopped. We have a picture of David at the threshing floor. David prepared to pay for the threshing floor which God instructed him to buy. Next, we're going to look at the temple, the first temple on the Temple Mount to be built, Solomon's temple. I'll show you a picture of Solomon's temple, and then we'll have a few words to say about his temple. It's a beautiful building, don't you agree? Solomon's temple, the beautiful temple of God. First temple on the Temple Mount. Years and years before Islam became a religion. So the first temple built on the Temple Mount, on Mount Moriah, was King Solomon's temple. Solomon's temple lasted 400 years. It was destroyed by the Babylonians, King Nebuchadnezzar, around 587 BC. Another temple was built after it was destroyed by Zerubbabel, another attempt to build the temple in 538. It was rebuilt years later on the same site. The building of the temple was made to look a lot better by King Herod. He made additions and other added other things to the temple to make it look beautiful. The temple during the reign of King Herod lasted until 70 AD, when the temple was destroyed by the Romans. General Titus, the son of the Roman Emperor Vespasian, he and his troops destroyed the temple. With the temple destroyed, one part of the temple was left, one wall. It came to be known as the Western Wall, or the Wailing Wall. And at the Western Wall and the Wailing Wall, same wall, Jews pray and have fellowship, praying to God. They'll write out little prayers on paper and put it in between the stones of the wall. I have a picture of the wall and the Jewish people praying around the wall. As you can see, they're praying around the wall, the Wailing Wall, or the Western Wall as it's also known. You have an area for men to pray and an area for women to pray. You'll notice that the men's area is much larger than the women's. Would that mean that the men are more spiritual? No, there's just more men that go there to pray than the women. I and my wife, Diane, went to Israel, and we had a chance to see the Western Wall, the Wailing Wall. I went down to see what the women were doing, and they thought that I was going to go down there to pray, so the women came running at me saying, "No, no, get away," which I did, not to disturb their worship. So Solomon's temple lasted 400 years. It was destroyed by the Babylonians around 587. Another temple was built in 538. Years later, General Titus destroyed the temple after King Herod had made improvements. Daniel 9:27 speaks of a future Jewish temple yet to be rebuilt on the Dome of the Rock. Right now, 2 Muslim mosques are the only temples on the Mount of Moriah today. The first temple is the Dome of the Rock. Another picture of it, Dome of the Rock. The other temple is the El Aqsa Mosque, and that's the temple that the Muslims use for prayer. The Dome of the Rock is more for as an exhibit or for a show place. Well, that will wrap it up today on the Temple Mount. Been good talking with you. This is Chuck Suchman. See you next time.